let's talk about you. Okay, we've been talking about technologies, talking about firefighting, talking about Firebot and Firebot applications, but you're 19 years old. I was talking to you before we started shooting this, saying that you're basically one of the youngest founders I've ever seen in the hardware, startup space. Typically, we don't see really young people, and it's trying to build hardware technologies because it's really, really hard to do that. And you're doing it at the age of 19. So I have to ask, can you talk about your background and motivation for wanting to do this, for studying electrical engineering and building robots?
Sure. Yeah, that's a great question. I'll be honest with you. I didn't know I was going to be doing this 2 years ago or 3 years ago.
Yeah.
I've lived a bit of around the country, all over the Midwest, the East Coast, and then the South here. And in my times, I've never really been someone who's really taken a hard look on entrepreneurship. All my life, I was a tinkerer, a problem solver. I tinkered with Legos. I disassembled robots. I built things out of nothing. I, worked in a wood shop and a machine shop. And all I was doing is sort of just enjoying the process and loving to build things. And when I came into sort of middle school, high school, I began working in sort of theoretical engineering competitions, right? Applying these skills, this tinkering, towards solving theoretical problems, building machines, building robots. I founded my high school's robotics club and things like this. And so that was great and gave me great experiences, but I lacked what I felt was at my core passion is my humanitarian side, right? Helping people, solving real problems. And so what I yearned to do was essentially take my engineering skills and solve real problems, help people stop doing this theoretical engineering challenges. And so coming into university and towards the latter half of high school, that's what I began to do, primarily through Firebot, right? I found a real issue in my community, right? I heard on the news about the death of a local firefighter, and that motivated me to reach out to my local fire department. Starting Firebot was a really organic process. I was just, looking for a problem to solve. I happened to chance upon one, and I was really motivated to help tackle this. And you're absolutely right. It is very difficult to fathom that, I'd be doing this as entrepreneurship, but it didn't start that way. It started as just a passion project, right? Building this robot to solve this issue. Along the way, I realized that it's very difficult to actually make something that solves this issue unless you commercialize and make it into a product, into a company. That's where entrepreneurship came in. So when I came to UT, coming to university, that was where the main switch happened, transforming it into a startup, towards making this idea, this passion project, into reality.
Yeah. And they say that the best way to build a startup is really to build it around a problem that is near and dear to your heart, basically.
Absolutely.
Yeah, if you're trying to solve a problem that applies to you in some way, even if it's not directly, you're going to passionately try to solve it. Right. And you're going to be able to survive some of the downs that would happen to you.
No, exactly. I mean, it's the passion of my heart that keeps us going, and the rest of my team as well, right? I mean, there's very difficult challenges we're solving, right? It's actually very interesting. You mentioned university earlier. I think university has been some of the greatest strengths of our startup in the sense of university has given us facilities, equipment, funding, resources, access to faculty and advisors. It's a great collaborative environment for starting startups. It's been fantastic. And, in some ways, like you said, it's the problem that keeps you going. And I've been able to find like-minded people in university who share my passion for this problem. And so coming to university and expanding and growing the organization has been really key towards helping this develop, especially, as we're all students and things like this. The other big thing I want to mention as your first question, right, starting a startup in college, it's actually interesting. Paradigm Robotics is one of the first, if not one of the first serious engineering undergraduate startup that has come out of UT in many years. And the reason for that is still quite, failing me. I think the primary reason for this is there's a lack of attention given towards engineering undergraduates. A lot of focus is on graduate students commercializing research. And so there's a lack of attention, a lack of funding, lack of advice. And so Paradigm Robotics has been pushing the pathway for this. We've been the guinea pig for a lot of UT programs, for a lot of different funding opportunities. that are helping this environment.
Yeah.
Most of the undergraduate startups are CS or SaaS or business or marketing. And so that's a completely different focus.
Yeah.
So long story short, coming to university has been great. I've gotten a lot of help and support, but at the same time, we've been having to push a pathway to help other organizations, other startups, right, move our way forward. I helped another robotics organization, a startup, develop, right, and show them the ropes, where the funding opportunities were, who to talk to, and things like this.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, that's another core part of what we're trying to do.
You know what's funny is, I built a startup around my PhD research, and I learned a lot of things during that process. And I still think about it sometimes, that I believe that for hardware startups, it's probably better to build a company or a startup around undergraduate research than PhD research or graduate level research, right? The reason is this. For you to get a graduate degree, your research is going to be focused on something entirely new that takes a long time to get to commercialization.
Right.
Undergraduate research is focused on a variation of an existing technology that you can commercialize faster.
Right.
I honestly think that a lot of focus needs to be put on, on undergraduates that want to start a hardware company, because I think that's the perfect place. Yeah. And almost every hardware tech founder I know has a PhD, right? It's funny, you might be. No, you're not the first, but you're one of the few ones I've had on the pod so far that started or that started during your undergraduate degree. So I think that's something that universities need to pay attention to. And I was also going to mention something that I think the University of Texas here in Austin is doing a really good job. I've met a lot of people now that UT is incubating or helping get their startups going. Like it's incredible. I don't think any university does that. And I've been to some. I don't think MIT does that. I don't think Stanford does that. All right. So if they do that, they're probably incubating like software companies or something like that. Right. So so big up to UT. That's good.
Absolutely. They have, like 133 different programs, opportunities for like startups. I mean, it's really fragmented and unfortunately it's not centralized, but this also offers resources now in 100 different ways for startups to find support, networks, advice, funding, XYZ. So that's been great. UT's been fantastic. It was one of the main reasons why I chose to come to UT and was really excited by exploring the opportunities at UT. And I think it's the main reason why a lot of other people come to UT. If you look up some of the startup reports about universities in the US, sure, MIT, Stanford, and a couple other ones have the most founders, the most unicorns, and the most startups. UT is not far behind. We're still in the top 10 for numbers of, startups being founded. The key thing here is the opportunities, right? We have such a wide variety of opportunities, and we plug into the Austin ecosystem really well. So that's been great. I mean, they're doing better. They're growing. They're getting more opportunities. But at its core, UT definitely has a great foundation.
I like it. I've actually seen a few pitches from undergraduates at UT, like trying to launch hardware startups. It's pretty incredible. That's
awesome.